Academica Media. You are listening to Charter School Superstars, bringing you the voices of an education revolution.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Ryan Kairalla from Doral College. Our guest this week on the program teaches third grade at the Jefferson County Somerset Charter School in Monticello, Florida. Recently, our guest received the Dr. Brian Dassler Leadership Award from the Florida Department of Education as part of its Teacher of the Year Awards program. You can find out more about our guest's work by visiting www.somersetjefferson.org. We are happy to welcome Indy Goodwin Mack on the Charter School Superstars. Hello, Ms. Mack.
Hello, and I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you. Before this interview started, one of the things I did was I looked up some of the specifics on the Dr. Brian Dassler Leadership Award. And let me tell you, what it is expecting of its recipients is a pretty tall order. I'm going to read right from the award information here. This award is given to an educator that, quote, upholds the belief that every single student deserves to have a teacher that is as good or better than the very best teacher any of us ever had. Wow. I have had some pretty excellent teachers in my time, Ms. Mack, as I'm sure you've had. What does it mean for you to receive that award, to given that level of praise by the other teachers in your profession? How does it feel to get an award like that as a longtime educator, specifically in the Jefferson County community?
I feel honored. I was amazed to receive the award, but I do share in the belief that every student, no matter the student, deserves the very best. And you know, even as parents, we want our children to have the very best. So as an educator of 28 years, I just feel that every student deserves the best. And so as a teacher, I try my best to be the best, involving myself in different professional developments, making sure I present myself as a role model for my students so they can strive to be their very best. Yeah, it is a pretty tall order to follow, to live up to, but I'm striving to be the best.
28 years in the profession. Bless you. That is so wonderful. Ms. Mack, whenever we have teachers on the program that have won some kind of award, and I love talking to the award winners on the show, one of the things I love to ask them, and I'd love for you to do this for us, can you take us to the moment when you found out you won this thing? Did you see it coming? Were you surprised? Take us to the moment if you could.
Wow, I was very shocked. I was amazed. I was sitting at the table and we had just started to begin our dinner that the Teacher of the Year had provided for us. And we were talking and they had already given out one of the awards, but when my name was called and flashed on the brick screen, I was amazed. I was sitting with my mom and she's like, that's my baby on the line. I was like, yes, that's me. But to be selected out of 74, 76 teachers, that was really a shock for me. But I did feel very honored, very valued, like what I have been doing all these years really mattered to someone. So it kind of validated me at that point.
And certainly validation that is worth it. This is such a fantastic story. And it's great to hear a story like this come out of a wonderful community like the one in Jefferson County. Jefferson County, the only 100% charter-run school district in the state of Florida, a diverse community, a community with a lot of socioeconomic challenges, but a community with a lot of devoted teachers and students who are trying to achieve great outcomes. And I would imagine, Ms. Mack, that key to this idea of ensuring that every student deserves to have the very best teacher any of us have ever had is making sure you set high expectations. You probably don't let things like poverty or demographics allow you to set low expectations for students. So what does it mean for you, for somebody who's been in the profession so long, who's been in Jefferson County so long, to continue to set high expectations for the students you teach?
Well, I am a firm believer that there are good things here in Jefferson County. I'm a product of Jefferson County. I graduated from this Jefferson County School District back years and years ago, and high expectations were set for me. There are no excuses, no matter, our zip code. All of our students have the same caliber of some of our big city schools, and they're able to reach great success. And I just make sure that they live up to it. And I try to encourage them every day by letting them know that they are great and they can be great. All they have to do is really try. Now, it's not going to be easy. And yes, living in a rural area does set a lot of challenges, but it doesn't mean that they can't succeed. It doesn't mean that they're not capable of making, to becoming their very best. Just because we live in a rural county, we just have a little bit of setbacks, have to work a little bit harder, but by all means, we can achieve the same things that the big cities achieve. We have the same type of students. They're great.
Yes, they are, very much so. And this idea of setting high expectations and working a little harder, as you said, even in a rural area like Jefferson County, probably takes on a whole new meaning amid the COVID-19 pandemic. It creates an additional set of challenges, but from the way you're talking, it also creates an additional opportunity for educators in schools like yours to rise to the occasion. Can you talk about what it means to set high expectations and maintain high expectations even during a pandemic?
Well, the pandemic really was a big challenge for us all, I'm sure. And even during COVID, our expectations remained as such, as we are expecting the best, the very best. You cannot allow students to second guess or give you less than their very best, because once you start that, then they'll continue in that pattern. So once you set your expectations and you set them high, students then tend to live up to that. You have to set it and be consistent with it, and they'll give you what you want. If they know that you care about them, they will really work hard to please you. And I think our students here in Jefferson County do a really good job of that.
Wow, I like this sentiment, this idea that, and it's something I often hear a lot from teachers who work in communities like yours, where you have to let the students know you care. We have this expression on another podcast that we do here on Academica Media, the Big Ideas in Education program. We refer to Maslow before Bloom, right? We need to make sure that students' needs as humans are met. They need to know that they're loved and cared for before you can be in a position to really achieve great educational outcomes for them. Can you reflect a bit on what that means to you?
Well, here in the district that I'm in, there are students that don't have some of the things that they need, the necessities, and they come to school wanting those things. And before you can teach them, before you could try to impart knowledge into their brain, you may have to feel their stomach. You may have to give them a gentle hug or just a little notion to remind them of why they're here. Some of them may not have gone to sleep, or they may have slept in various places and they need a little extra time or some extra care. You might have to help them with all sorts of things. I've been several times where in the morning is when some of the students have to get their homework out because they didn't get a chance to do it the night before, but that's still no excuse. The homework needs to be done so that the students can be successful in that practicing of the skill that they needed to practice. So it just takes on a little different, it looks a little different for certain students, but the learning is what's most important. And however we have to go about to get it done, then that's what we're going to do.
I love this combination of, I'm going to call it no excuses with love, right? We
Right.
hear a lot about the no excuses movement in education, where you always have high expectations for your students. You don't accept less than the best. But that doesn't mean you don't love these kids as well, and you don't want to nurture them and understand that you need to meet their needs before you can achieve high educational outcomes. And I think what a lot of folks need to understand is that inherent in this idea of no excuses is you're setting that same expectation for yourselves as educators. It's not just no excuses for the kids, it's no excuses for you. You find a way to make it work with your kids, and you make sure your kids have the tools that they need, have the nurturing that they need to achieve the educational outcomes that you expect of them. I love that. I love this dual approach. No excuses with love. I dig it. So let me ask you this question, because it's something I always want to ask any 28-year veteran of teaching that I come across. I would imagine that in 28 years of teaching, you have had your fair share of first-year teachers that you have taken under your wing, that you have walked them through some panicked moments. I'm sure you have You've helped a lot of young teachers through those first couple years where everything seems crazy, but don't worry, Miss Mack's got you covered. Can you talk a bit about the mentoring role that you've undoubtedly had in your teaching career and what it means for you to help the next generation of teachers achieve success as well?
Well, that's easy. I have a vested interest here. This is my community. This is where I grew up. This is where my family is, my mom is, and I want her to be able to, when she retires, have the things that she needs from the people that she needs to get it from. So I'm expecting these students to be her doctor, her lawyer, whatever it is that she needs. So whenever someone new comes into the community, I just have to remind them, hey, this is my community, and they have to have the best. My mom is here, and we're depending on the best. So, what I think for some of the new students, when they come to such a rural area, they don't realize how many things that the students are lacking in our area. So we have to take a little bit of, we take a step back to see what we can do to accommodate some of the needs that the students may need. But when mentoring, I just remind them that the students don't always come like we think they should, but I remind them that their parents are still sending the best that they have. It just may not look like what we think it should. And when we're in college and when we first get out of college, we are gung-ho and we want to set the world on fire, but then we come through obstacles that college hadn't prepared us for, like classroom management and different behaviors that, arise because of their needs not being met. So I just have to remind them and take them under their wing and say, even if they don't have a pencil today, here's a whole box of pencils. Let's just get that need met and keep moving.
For all the first-year teachers out there that are watching and listening right now, what is the one big piece of advice you have for them? Whether they are starting their first year this fall or maybe they've just finished their first year of teaching, what's the one thing that when you were a first-year teacher you wish somebody had told you?
That no matter the obstacle, no matter the student, you're in it for a reason. Most people go into education because of their love for children or their or their need to want to help. You have to remember your purpose. Whatever the purpose is, then you'll be able to fulfill it. Because there are going to be challenges, and sometimes you may want to deter from that thing you set out to do, but we all have goals. So if I was giving advice to a first-year teacher, I would just say stay on course.
Hold on to that purpose. Let that
hold
guide
on.
you. Like a port in a storm, if you will.
Yes.
You want to hold on to that sense of purpose and let it guide you when things get tough. Because, I don't know, my first piece of advice would be just do whatever Ms. Mack says. Just keep talking to her, get all the advice you can.
Oh, God.
That's fantastic. Great stuff. And I'm just so thrilled for you to win this award, too. Not just for what it means for you as an educator, but for what it means for Somerset Jefferson as a whole. Just a really incredible story.
Right.
Anything that gets that school highlighted, I love it.
All
right, one more question before we let you go. I'm excited to get your answer for it. If with the snap of your fingers, you could make any change to the education system, what change would it be?
Wow, that is a little bit difficult for me. Actually, there are two things I would probably want to change, and it's not so much, the first thing would be the testing, how students are tested. And I know it's not going to go away because teachers need to be held accountable. That's how you can determine who's the very best, right? We do need to be held accountable, but I think the pressure that comes from testing, and you even see it in the students, and I just want learning to be fun. I don't want it to be so pressured, or I just want the students to be able to learn and have fun and enjoy school like it used to be. That would be one thing. The other thing would be to allow teachers to really be creative in their sense of getting the students to reach their goal. We have what is called best practices, and our teachers use best practices, and these things have been proven to work to get the students to reach a certain level. But sometimes, even with our best practices, teachers can be creative, and I just think that, some of the things that we're putting in education are not allowing for full creativity, when it comes to our students. But, sometimes you have to think out the box to get these children to learn, because now the children are much different than they were when I first started. So we need a little bit of creativity, I think, to help our students reach their goals.
Couldn't agree more. Let us all celebrate our guest this week, the Dr. Brian Dassler Leadership Award winner from the Florida Department of Education. You can find out more about our guest, Indy Goodwin Mack's work, by visiting somersetjefferson.org, and I encourage you to check that school out. A lot of cool things happening over there in Monticello,
Our principal
Florida.
has it going on.
Yes, it does indeed. Ms. Mack, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
And thank you all for listening to Charter School Superstars.
The views expressed on the preceding program have been those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Academica, its clients, staff, affiliates, or advertisers.